Okay, welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack, where the Jazz played the T-Wolves in Salt Lake tonight, and some positives from the effort. Sexton plays well, has another really big game. So let's talk about what happened.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So Sexton really had another really good game. After his last game with the 30 points, he put up another really high efficiency game and scored 19. And that's really good for Collin. I think there seems to be an emphasis with getting him more minutes. Even though Clarkson played tonight, Collin played 30 minutes, which is great. And Collier again played big minutes with 30. And the Jazz got off to a really good start. So they got off to a really good start in that first quarter with John Collins playing, Lowry playing, everybody was playing well. And the trouble began when they made some substitutions and things kind of went south. But still, we get some young guys, significant minutes, and the Jazz ultimately lose the game, which we still need. The Jazz right now are in the second. They're in 29 out of 30 teams in terms of record. So we're on pace to get in the bottom three. And so right now I think it's all positive, even though they did really struggle on the defensive end as a team tonight with the T-Wolves shooting over 60%. And they couldn't really do anything with Anthony Edwards. So it was a tough night on defense, but still, overall positives.
Yeah, this is like the one team that we want to lose. So this was like a tough one, is we don't want to win, but we also don't want to lose. We want Minnesota to lose because we have their draft pick. So, their record now after this game is 27-21. So they're clearly in the playoff. I'm not sure if they've got up to the 6th seed where they wouldn't have the play in, but they've got a gap now. I would think we could look at the standings after the fact, but that was the only struggle with this particular game. Is Minnesota is the one team we're rooting to actually lose. And, I've said I'm hoping that some of the teams underneath them get some players that they can vault over Minnesota. So we'll see. But it was really good to see our guys play, our whole team play. That was great to see.
Yeah. From that standpoint, it's good. And like I said, like we said previously, I think the Jazz are trying to get some of their veteran guys game time to show the rest of the league that they are healthy. And I mean, John Collins played well again. So, I think his value is probably as high as it's been in the last 5 years right now. We'll see if that turns into anything. I still think GMs are going to be reluctant to make a significant move for him just because the Jazz got him for free. And so if things don't work out, then I think that makes a GM who pays for him, and then things don't work out, it makes him look really bad, which is I think that's the problem with trading John for something significant right now. It's just because of the low value that he was traded previously, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was in the car yesterday and I was listening to the Sacramento station, and they were talking about De'Aaron Fox being up, and that puts the John Collins on hold, at least for now, and an overpay for Collins. So I don't know exactly what was offered, right? No one knows. But, I agree. There's this sense out there that if you pay anything for John Collins, you're overpaying. At the same time, man, I know that's the perception, but you look at his, we're going to have to put his stats next to Jeremy Grant, Cam Johnson, and some of these other guys that are available and see how they compare. Like on a 36-minute basis, because, you have to do it on some consistent minute basis. I bet they actually compare favorably to all of those guys, with the one exception that I can't think Cam Johnson is shooting better from the 3-point line. But let's face it, he's injured a lot. And so, I know they're sitting him down, But even if they didn't sit him down, Cam Johnson is injured a lot. So that's something we can do in a future episode is look at some of our players on a 36-minute basis relative to other players. I'd like to do the same with Collin and compare him against Maxey, compare him against Harden, compare him against some of these other guys that are out there, but do it on a 36-minute basis. I think we'd be surprised at how good his numbers look.
Yeah, I think he's favorable, and I mean John Collins is playing really well right now, so I think his numbers are going to be favorable compared to all those guys that are rumored to be moved. I think that from just a productivity standpoint on the court so far this year, I think John Collins is in a favorable position to all those guys in reality, but I mean, I'd rather have him than Cam Johnson personally on my team if I'm trying to win games. But it's just that negative perception of him being traded a couple of years ago for basically nothing, and It's just hard to get over that.
And shopping him for a couple of years and not getting any offers that they liked, and then finally gave him away for nothing. But other than John can't create his own shot. Larry can't really create his own shot. That's really kind of the one thing with John. I mean, he's shooting the three-point well. He rebounds well. He blocks shots well. He's a great finisher. The one thing he's just not good at is creating his own shot. But look, there's there's special players that can create their own shot, and there's everybody else. And what he's doing, everything else is great. I mean, it really is good this year.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's take a look at the box score and see where things went tonight. I mean, Lowry again, like most previous games, I mean, he's really struggling from three, and not exactly sure what the deal is with his 3-point shooting, but it's been off for the last few weeks. And he might still be struggling with injury. Hard to know. I mean, if your back is giving you problems, shooting threes isn't the easiest thing to do. I mean, your legs and your back are fairly important aspects of shooting the three well. So, I mean, he actually, obviously Lowry isn't shooting a bunch of mid-range jumpers, so his field goal attempts that aren't threes are typically right around the basket. So it's hard to say. I mean, he went 2 for 3 from 2 tonight, but like I said, I mean, it's layups and dunks for the most part if he's not shooting threes. That's just that's basically the offense that Lowry is pursuing at the moment. He doesn't shoot a lot of mid-range shots.
Yeah, his rebounds have been not Lowry-like either. I mean, 2 tonight, but they've just been light. Actually, let me look at what he is the last 10 games because I'm curious what he's doing, because my perception is his rebounds are low. Last 10 games, 6 on 31 minutes a game, like 32 minutes a game, so low. That's and you got to figure that's probably, well, it's either he's disgusted and doesn't want to play hard, or it's back or some other reason. So, and it's probably back, because I do think Larry is a guy that plays hard, wants to win, very competitive guy. So unfortunately, I think that he's probably dealing with an injury and he just doesn't want to say anything.
Yeah, it could very well be. And John Collins, like we said, he did play well in the 28 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I mean, those are good numbers. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are really no negatives to what he did tonight. Yeah, it'd be nice if he got a couple more rebounds, but I mean, sometimes those rebounds don't come your way. So overall, I think John, I mean, obviously he's missed a ton of games recently, and he's playing sporadically. So I'd say any time that he can get on the court right now before the trade deadline is a positive.
Yep. We got to showcase the guy. Absolutely.
Well, moving on to Walker. Walker did not have one of his better games tonight. He didn't have any blocks, no assists. He did get eight rebounds, but for whatever reason, he wasn't really involved, and things got off really well. But then with the substitutions, it just the last 3.5 quarters didn't go so well. So it's just one of those nights. Like I don't know what exactly the deal is with him, but the 8 rebounds, 2 steals, the 2 steals is nice, but it's just not one of his better efforts. I mean, he scored 2 points, 8 rebounds, and no blocks, no assists. That's not one of Walker's better nights, but Walker has been playing very well lately. I mean, really well. So this is just an off night. I wouldn't chalk it up to anything more than that.
Yeah, my perception, he actually struggles against Minnesota. I think that Gobert has a chip on his shoulder when he plays the Jazz, and in particular Walker, right? Because they were traded 1-for-1, and I would rather have Walker right now than Rudy, and I like Rudy, but I'd rather have Walker right now. But I think Rudy comes in, is very motivated when he plays Walker, and I think he plays well against him. And let's face it, Rudy's a very good basketball player still, and so I think he is a hard time with them. And look at Rudy at 4 blocks tonight. Right, so Rudy isn't blocking anybody, so that's I think that's part of it. But Walker's young; he's going to learn. He's going to have bad games. He's still got 8 rebounds. I'm sure he'll bounce back next game.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, the reality of it is that Walker is longer than pretty much everybody he plays against on a night in and night out basis. But tonight is one of those nights where he's not the longest guy in the court. So, I mean, there are just very few nights where Walker doesn't have size over his opposing player, but tonight's just one of those nights. It's just the reality of it. So we move on to Isaiah, and Isaiah played well again. Really good night. 11 points, 7 assists. He still got a lot of minutes. So good development minutes, 30 minutes. I'd say it's a strong outing for him. I didn't see any. I mean, he did have 4 turnovers, but I think he's had like 4 turnovers in 2 of the previous recent games as well. So I'd say he's right on pace for his typical outing. The seven assists to 4 turnovers for a rookie point guard. I think that's very acceptable. I have no issues with it. And he shot the ball well, too, tonight.
Yeah, and the shot is just, he's not shooting as many three-pointers, and that helps him because he's not a good three-point shooter, and he won't be until he really works on his techniques. But he is shooting the ball well overall as a field goal percentage, so we can only be really happy with what we see out of Isaiah Collier. Still tough, et cetera. He did one where he blew by somebody and got a layup and really in control and went hard to the basket. I mean, it was really nice.
Moving on to Kyle. Kyle did not get a lot of minutes tonight. He really just didn't get involved in the game a whole lot. I mean, he took 1 shot, he had 1 rebound, no assists, no steals, no blocks. So the 14 minutes, with John Collins coming back and getting 28, Kyle's minutes, and Lowry as well, Kyle's minutes are going to be decreased, and that's exactly what happened. So the nights when Kyle gets a really big opportunity are going to be nights when either Lowry or John are not there, and that was not tonight. So between Kyle playing 14 minutes and Drew playing 12 minutes, there's really not a lot of extra minutes available for Kyle.
Yeah, and I think that they are trying to showcase Drew too, so they're giving him minutes. And let's face it, that's probably a smart strategy. Like if we can get some second-round picks to restock that or have 5 second rounds, we can trade for somebody else for something, right? I mean, there's value in that. So I don't object to that. I mean, we're going to have plenty of time to give Kyle minutes. Of course, I'd love to see him play. I like Kyle. I really like what he brings to the court, but I think we have to be realistic that the trade deadline's the 6th, and we need to showcase our players as much as we can, in particular like Clarkson, because he hasn't played a lot. no one's going to trade for him if they think he's going to sit on the bench and not be able to play. So I was actually very pleased to see him play.
Yeah. So the next person, we get on to Keontae, and Keontae had a fantastic night shooting the ball tonight. I mean, he goes 7 for 7 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, 3 assists, 1 rebound, 1 block, only 1 turnover, and he scores 23 points on 7 for 7 shooting. And that's fantastic that he shot the ball that well, because he has, in recent games, he's had a lot of struggles shooting the ball. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see the ball go in for Keontae. And the other things are the issue that Keontae had tonight. I think it's the other areas of the game where he had some struggles. But shooting the ball, it's really nice to actually see the ball go in for Keontae, because I think he needs that for his confidence very badly.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting. Like, I think one of the reasons that many fans are really excited about Keontae, and I'm not, and maybe even Will Hardy, although, probably it's not fair to Will Hardy to say, yeah, for this, what I'm going to say is like the reason he's just excited about Keontae. I mean, he is very smooth with his shot. Like, it goes up in a hurry. He can take it off the dribble. He looks very confident in shooting it. So when it does go in, it's great, right? I mean, it looks really good because he gets it up in a hurry without hesitation. So, if he could just do it consistently. I mean, I was thinking about Keontae the other day, is that both last year and this year, he had stretches of like 15 games that he really looked like a legitimate NBA starting player. He was shooting really well, but then, that ends and then it goes really bad. And so I hope he's on the trend back upward, at least on his shooting. Did you want to say something about other aspects of his game?
No, not particularly, but it's just when he entered the game, he and Clarkson tonight, the combination of those two guys, I mean, I think that's what really did the Jazz in. I mean, things just fell apart when those two guys were in the game. I mean, Keontae shot the ball well, but it's just the team just did not function when he and Clarkson were in the game. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of plus minus, but Keontae tonight was minus 22 and Clarkson was minus 31. And when those two guys were in the game together, it just did not go well. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I'll say also this is that, he was playing at that time, they were playing against Dillingham on the other side. Dillingham had a really good game. And honestly, I think Dillingham's going to be good. He was down in the G League, but his numbers have been really good at the NBA level. He just hasn't got a lot of minutes. Cat quick. I mean, he's like Sexton, very quick. So I think that Keontae tonight was going against a guy that's underrated, and Dillingham, because he's good. I think he's good, but yeah, I mean, Keontae, we were crushing them in the first quarter, and then the wheels came off completely. So something happened, and it was kind of the second unit. So. Sometimes the second unit plays well. Tonight was not one of those.
Yeah. So Drew had a decent game tonight, 3 for 4 from the field, but he had no rebounds in 13 minutes. And, obviously that's an issue, but Minnesota has a ton of size, so Drew is undersized in this game. But let's skip on to actually Clarkson then. So Clarkson does get minutes, and that's good because the Jazz need to give him minutes before the trade deadline to see if there are any takers. I'm still not convinced that's going to be the case. I don't think anybody's going to give up any sort of draft capital for Clarkson at this point in his career. But I think it's worth a shot to see if somebody will, to see if somebody else get a taker. I mean, honestly, my hope is that somebody's just willing to take his contract to open up time for the younger guys. I think that should be the hope of all Jazz fans at this point, because I think that would be a huge benefit for the next. I think he has another year and a half on his contract, or is it 2.5 years? Another year and a half.
Another year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so he has another year and a half on his contract. So I think it would be of huge benefit to allow Jordan to go play elsewhere and actually be on a winning team. I think that would be good for Jordan, and I think it'd be good for the Jazz. So they've got to give him, as a result, they have to give him time, regardless, before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I like Jordan, so I hope for him to go on to a team that's winning where he can come off and be a sixth person and gun, I think it'd be great for him. It'd open up time for our young players, which we want. So I think all is good. But I agree, like, he's been out so much that if you're a team that wants to trade for him or thinking about trade for him, you really got to think, like, look, if we get this guy and we give up anything for it, is he actually going to play? So I'm glad he got some time. Yes, I agree with you. The wheels kind of came off when he came in with Keontae, but we need to give him some time. So hopefully we can get it. And look, I'm with you. If you can take his contract and get nothing back, and you don't have to take an expiring contract, let's do it. Let's just get the deal done.
Yeah, that has to be the strategy, and I hope that's the strategy of the Jazz. But we will see. In less than 2 weeks, we will know. Okay, finally, Bryce, last person on the list for the night. Again, he plays 15 minutes. It's fewer minutes than he was getting prior to being injured, but at least he got on the court. He only went 1 for 5, 1 for 4 from 3, 1 rebound, no assists, 1 steal. I mean, obviously, this isn't one of Bryce's better nights, but still, I would rather see him on the court and work through some struggles than not play at all. So the 15 minutes, in my opinion, is a benefit. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. And how many times has Collin started 1 for 5 or 1 for 6, and then he plays himself out of it, by shooting, and then it turns around? And who knows if Bryce could do the same? The only way is if you play him more than 15 minutes. And yes, we just said we need to give Jordan some time now because it's the only way he's going to get traded. But I'd really like to see Bryce get more minutes, and let's see what he does. You give him 5 shots, he misses 4 of the 5. Yeah, but who knows? Maybe the next 5 go in, and it would just be nice to see him out there more. But I don't know. He's, there's this group of players that are Hardy's guys, and there's this group of players that are not Hardy's guys. And I feel like Collin and Bryce are not Hardy's guys, and then Keontae and Jordan are Hardy's guys, and the minutes seem to reflect that.
Yeah, if Jordan isn't traded, or maybe they can do a buyout with him so they can move on. I don't think they'll do that, but maybe they could. I think even if Jordan is still on the roster after the trade deadline, I would like to see his minutes reduced to under 20 and Bryce's increased. I hope that's the case. But again, we have other guys who aren't even playing. I mean, Svi didn't play tonight, and Johnny Juzang is still on the injured list with some sort of ailment, I assume, because he's not on the active roster. So those guys, especially Johnny, I mean, he was getting minutes prior to going out of the lineup, and I would assume that he's also going to get minutes when he comes back. So Jordan really needs to be on his way. That's the bottom line. That's the only way this actually works for the benefit of the younger guys.
Yeah, I'm just Googling it because Johnny Juzang has a right hand fracture. So there actually is a real injury for Johnny. That's the reason he's not playing.
Well, I did not know that, but I would assume that will be rectified before the end of the season, and he will be back. I mean, how long has he been out? A few weeks?
Yeah, a few weeks. Yeah, I thought they were sitting him at first, but then I think it came out about a week ago that he had the right hand fracture. Let me see when it was announced. Oh no, 3 weeks ago, Jazz announced he has a hand fracture.
Okay. Well, I would assume that he returns this season, but obviously it depends on how the healing progresses. But anyway, it would just help the younger guys on the roster if Jordan was elsewhere. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And we will know in less than 2 weeks. We will know what happened.
Yep.
Well, anyway, that's the discussion about what happened in the game tonight and where things stand. And we will keep on watching the trade wires and look at some analysis of individual guys in future videos, and also do the post game on every game that the Jazz play. So, do you have any other comments for tonight?
The only other comments I have is that it was great to see Mountain Mike on the bench. He came up after, very happy to see Jordan, Rudy, Joe, Nick Alexander Walker. I mean, it was just really good to see these guys. And I looked at Nikhil's stat line this year: 45.3% from the field, 40.5 from the 3-point line. Rebounds 2.9, not great. 2.3 assists, not great. 8.6 points, but I'm really happy for him. I wish we could have hung on to him. He's still 26 years old. He's a hustler guy. It was just, but it was really good to see those guys. Those guys we traded to Minnesota, I really like all of them. And I don't want to root for them now because it's on a team we really need to lose, but it's just good to see those guys.
Yeah, I mean, those are all good guys, and even though Mike didn't play tonight, I think that I would think that he probably, regardless of his health situation, I think this is probably a trip that he insisted on making just to get back to Utah. So I think it's really good that we actually have some good guys who have moved on to other teams and they all seem to really like Utah. I don't know if Rudy still has his house. I think he had it last year. I don't know if he still has it in his home in Salt Lake, but he obviously did hold on to it and didn't sell it. So, I mean, and Joe obviously really likes Utah too. So all those guys, those are all good guys.
Yeah, and it was great to see the fans give Joe, when he came in, rooting for him to get a basket. I mean, it was really good. It was really good to see. At the same time, he's got no time this year. He's gained weight. I feel bad for Joe. Look, he's made a lot of money. I'm sure he's fine, right? He's set for life, even though he never was one of the high-paid guys. But these guys that are just kind of hanging on at the end of their career, you feel bad for, right? Because I'm sure it's really hard for the guy that he wants to play and he's just not getting minutes. But it was good to see him. It's funny is whichever team Joe's on, his teammates really just seem to like him. Ant was rooting for him when he got in, right? And you saw when he was on Orlando, it was the same way with his teammates. So we've got some good guys that go through that. And honestly, your point about Mike, it is going to be the one hard thing with Lowry. Lowry likes Utah, and I don't think he meets our timeline. So we probably do have to move him when he gets value again. But it's going to be hard because you have a guy like that that's great, that wants to live in the state, that can be an ambassador and tell other people, yeah, this is not a bad place. You want to stay here. It's hard to let those guys go. We both talked about, we hope Mike comes back as a coach after, hopefully Hardy's ego doesn't get in the way, because boy, I'd like to have him back with the Jazz.
Yeah, I think there's probably a really good opportunity for him to do that. I'd be shocked if the Jazz actually did not pursue that in some way. Ainge likes to hold to continue the ties, some of the ties that he had, like Isaiah Thomas going to the G League. Isaiah Thomas, for the second time It's second year in a row with the Jazz G League. I mean, obviously everybody felt that Ainge really screwed over Isaiah Thomas when he was playing injured through the playoffs, and then he never gave him the next contract. But the relationship there, Ainge is obviously still fostering that relationship, and they're still on really good terms. And I would assume that type of a situation is still available with Mike as well. I would be shocked if it's not.
I hope so. Like, I honestly feel bad for Isaiah because he never got the big contract and he deserved it. Now, in hindsight, if you would have given the big contract, you would have been disappointed as a team because he wouldn't have played through it. But he never got the big contract. And so maybe Ainge feels guilty for that, but he has given him a couple of shots. Last year he got to Phoenix because of Ainge. And this year, I bet somebody will pick him up, like last year, and I think this year too, he goes to the G League and he dominates. That guy he's let's face it, if you and I went, that guy would crush us. I mean, that guy is a good basketball player. Even at his age, he's a good basketball player. So I hope he does get another shot. I'm rooting for Isaiah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if another playoff team picked him up. I mean, if he's scoring 30 at high efficiency in the G League, I don't see any reason why somebody doesn't give him one of the roster spots going into the playoffs. It would be, I mean, he's certainly better than some of the players on these rosters. That's for sure. They can help a team win immediately, and he's obviously not a long-term guy. He's a one-year rental for a playoff run. But we'll see. I think that's his hope, obviously, and that's probably what Ainge has in store. What his plan was to try and help him out.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we will call it a night. And like I said, we will be on with some future videos as well as each post game. And please like, share, and subscribe. And everybody have a great night, and we will talk to you later.